Imagine you're a young black man going off to work and the police stop you as they're looking for a suspect in a robbery. And your face fits because you're young and you're black. And what's more, you're in the area. So off you go to the station for questioning. 3 hours later, you're released with an apology. But now you're late for work. And now you're in trouble with the boss for being late. Why are you so late? Do you tell her you were questioned by the police? What will she think? Well, there's no smoke without fire. So you lie. She knows it, you know it. Now there's mistrust. Guess who's top of her list to get rid of when the next round of redundancy comes? And the thing is, you were totally innocent. Now imagine that same young law-abiding man gets picked up for questioning again 6 months later. Now he's thinking, why are the police always trying to arrest me? You can see why black people, particularly young black men, are angry. Now this is not a dig at the police. The police have a description of a suspect, young black male. It'd be pointless for cops to go around and question 80-year-old grandmothers or ginger-haired teenagers. But you can see why the young black guy would be angry. Now I don't know how to solve the problem, but I do know I mustn't ignore it. Imagine how you'd feel being questioned by the police more than once a year. Would you feel embarrassed being picked up in a police car in front of your friends and family? Think of the shame and the anger you'd feel just being suspected of a crime. Imagine the outrage. Can't they see just by looking at me I'm innocent? Can't they see I'm not the kind of guy who would do something like this? The Black Lives Matter movement challenges all of us. I've got to examine myself. I've got to see whether I'm unconsciously contributing to the misery of my black brothers and sisters. I've got to listen to their stories. I've got to hear British black people when they say how tiring it is to waste the first few minutes of pretty much every conversation with someone they don't know having to prove A, they're not foreign, B, they're not stupid, C, they're not a criminal, D, they're not going to do a rain dance. As a white man, I've got to assume every person of colour that I meet has lived in Britain since 1066. If I say, but where are you really from? That can easily be heard as, but where are you really from? You don't belong in this country. Now, I don't think that, and I'm sure you don't. But I confess I have asked the question in my time, where are you from? Because actually I'm fascinated by hearing about other countries and other cultures. I know a lot of people aren't bothered, but I do care. But I get it. If you're black and you've grown up, say, in Bedford all your life and you're asked, where are you really from? It feels uncomfortable. It makes you feel unwelcome. I also need to recognise, as a human being, I bring prejudice into every encounter with every human being I ever meet. And so do you. Yes, you do. This is how it works. I make judgments about people based on their accent, their clothes, their hairstyle, their tattoos, their appearance, their facial expressions, their laugh, maybe even their colour. I don't mean to. I don't want to do it, but I do it unconsciously. And I do it all the time, and so do you. I look at someone and say, this is a person that I want to talk to, or this is a person I want to avoid. This is a person I want to get to know. Oh, I don't want to bother to get to know them. That feeling you have about someone that you don't know, who you've seen but you've not talked to, that feeling about whether they're worth talking to or not, that's your innate, inbuilt prejudice. And it's not good. People are made in the image of God. Male and female, he created them. Putting people in boxes, worth knowing, not worth knowing, worth talking to, not worth talking to. That's sinful thinking, that's prejudice. It lives in me and it lives in you, whether you're white or whether you're black. Prejudice has always been with us since Adam and Eve rebelled against God. It's been around a long time. There's a story in the Bible where Jesus went to a meal and a woman turned up who, let's say, she had a bit of a reputation. And she made a scene sitting at Jesus' feet, weeping, wiping his feet with her hair. And when Simon, the Pharisee, the religious leader, who had invited him to this party, saw this, he said to himself, "Why, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she's a sinner." Do you see? Simon has discounted this woman as not worth knowing. This woman should be avoided. But what about Jesus? Jesus didn't feel the need to avoid her. Jesus knew way more about this woman than Simon ever would. And he has nothing but compassionate love for this broken woman. I wonder, who do you avoid? As a Christian, I have to fight that inner tendency in me to judge people like Simon did. I have to let God's Holy Spirit help me overcome that sinful tendency to classify people as worth speaking to or not, worth knowing or not. When I was a boy, I was in the same class with a boy named Bradley for 2 years. I didn't like him, he didn't like me. We never argued. In fact, we never talked to one another. But we both knew we didn't like each other. And then Bradley broke his leg and he had to sit out of games in the playground. And he came and sat with me next to a tree in the playground. And we talked. And it turned out that he liked cricket and he was a big fan of someone that I was a big fan of, Viv Richards. Amazing cricketer he was. Anyway, me and Bradley, we became firm friends. A month later, he moved to Australia and I never saw him again. What a waste! How stupid were we? We didn't know each other, but we knew we didn't like each other. We knew we wouldn't get on. Stupid judgments like that infect all our dealings with people we don't know. In his book, Talking to Strangers, Malcolm Gladwell talks about how people are not transparent. His big idea is that we struggle to read people, even those of us who think we're pretty good at reading people. The evidence is we're utterly hopeless at it. We make all sorts of snap judgments about people that we think we can easily see into the hearts of others based on the flimsiest of clues. We jump at the chance to judge strangers. There was an interesting experiment which involved completing words. So, for example, GL dash dash. How would you complete that word? What would you write? GLUM, glum. You might put GLOW, glow. You might put GLUG, glug. Now, whatever you put, what does your choice of words say about you? Glum. You're a depressive. Glow. You're a shiny, happy optimist. Glug. You're an alcoholic. In this experiment, the people completed a whole list of words like this, and they were asked, what does your list of words say about you? And they all said, absolutely nothing. Just a random list of words. It's just vocabulary. This hasn't revealed anything about the mysteries of my inner being. Which is fine. I agree. But what happened next was really interesting. They then asked those same people to examine somebody else's test. What does their list of words say about them? What does their list of words say about them? And interestingly, everyone else looked at other people's list of words and they started making snap judgments about the other people. Glug. He's an alcoholic. Glum. She's melancholic. Glow. She's narcissistic. They're all quick to judge someone else's character based on evidence, which in their own case they said was utterly worthless and meaningless. The point is, it's yet more evidence if we needed it. We're quick to judge strangers. We think they are easy to understand. They are transparent. But we personally, we're complex. We're complicated. How crazy are we? We meet someone and within a second we're thinking they're worth knowing or not. or we meet them for the first time, this deeply complex human being, full of contradictions and cliches, and based on their looks or their accent, their hairstyle, smile, their demeanour, their posture, we say, nah, not worth knowing. How crazy are we to write off a person with a history, a person with a unique story, as not worth knowing? Thinking we know all about them because we see that they're covered in tattoos, or they told us they read The Guardian or the Daily Mail. We don't know their story. We don't understand their story until we listen to them. Knowing someone takes time. Friends, we may have many different responses to what's going on with the whole Black Lives Matter movement. But what's really clear is we need to pray against the sin of racism. We need to confess any part we played in it. But bigger than that, we need to use it as a time to check our prejudices. Are there people we shy away from as not worth knowing? How can we reach them, get to know them? I wonder, are there people you assume you know all about them, and yet you don't know them at all? What about your boss? Is he maybe more complicated than you give him credit for? What about your colleagues, who you used to sit opposite to before all this kicked off? Could you name your colleagues' children? How well do you really know your colleague that you sit next to? What about your circle of friends? Are they made up totally of people like you? One of the joys of church life is that we get to know people from all sorts of different backgrounds and ages, people with vastly different experiences. I remember as a young man when I first began work in the steel industry, I knew no one in my own family who could give me advice on how to succeed in business. So there I was in a new city, I had no real friends yet, and I went to church. And this man sat next to me, and he was about 80. And I instantly thought, oh, that's annoying. I was hoping to talk to someone younger today, someone who might become a friend, someone I could talk to about the world of work that I'm about to start. To my shame, that's what I thought. But I was only in my 20s, and that's what I thought. And then I started talking to this ancient man. Turns out, he was a former managing director of a large international steel company. And Sid gave me advice that day, and he prayed for me. He became a friend. He was very helpful. But my first thought was, well, we'll have nothing in common. Imagine if I hadn't bothered to speak to him. Imagine if I discounted him. I'd have missed out on his wisdom and his friendship. Friends, all lives matter. That's why God sent his Son. The question is, do all lives matter to me and to you?